Well, welcome in, Tiger fans, to another live Friday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou Show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is indeed Friday, March 27th, 2026. Thank you, folks, so much for tuning into the show. I greatly appreciate it. This show today is going to function as an LSU baseball pregame/weekend preview as the Tigers take on a top 25 Kentucky Wildcat team this weekend, hosting them in the box starting tonight at 6:30 p.m. So we got a lot to talk about there. Of course, you also have LSU women's basketball playing Duke tonight in the Sweet 16. That's going to be a fun one as well. Late tip off for that one though is at 9 p.m. tip off. The Tigers are playing in Sacramento in the Sweet 16 against Duke. Kind of weird with the Sweet 16 locations the past couple of years that LSU women's basketball has been sent to. I remember they went to Albany up in New York, one year, and this is, I think, their second time going to Sacramento to compete in the Sweet 16. So kind of weird, but rooting on the women's basketball team tonight. They did beat Duke early in the season in December on the road in Cameron Indoor by a final score of 93-77. So that is going to be an interesting one to pay attention to. But we got a lot of baseball to break down and preview and get into. Can't wait for it. Before we get to it, I want to remind you, as always, that we are sponsored daily by our friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC company in the business today. Remember that number 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU. Call our friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling at that number today. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou Show, and you will be receiving completely free to you, giving it away to you, completely free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home, courtesy of the best AC company in the business today and our great and wonderful friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling, who we greatly love and appreciate for being the daily title sponsors of the show, of the Babin on the Bayou Show. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy, so much for tuning in to the show. Excited for you, going to be in a box tonight, Randy. Can't wait for you, my friend. I know you're excited about it, but let's get into this preview. So LSU taking on Kentucky in a 3-game weekend series starting tonight at 6:30. The Tigers are now 2-4 in SEC play, so 2-4, not an ideal start through the first 2 weekends, to the first 6 games of conference play. We'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about what the Tigers need to do heading into this one. But I want to talk about Kentucky. I want to preview Kentucky, talk about them a little bit. Kentucky's a really good team. Kentucky is a really good team. Thank you, Alex. What a time to be an LSU fan. Absolutely. What a time to be a Tiger fan. Talk about this Kentucky team. They have a record of 20 wins and 4 losses on the season, 20-4, 4-2 in SEC conference play so far this season. So they've won a lot of games. What they've done in SEC play so far, opening weekend of SEC play 2 weekends ago, they swept Alabama at home. Before last weekend, they dropped 2 out of 3 in a weekend series last weekend on the road to Ole Miss in Oxford. So 4-2 in SEC play, 20-4 overall. They won a lot of games. And I will say about Kentucky, I've always really respected and really liked Nick Mingione. I think he's a really, really good baseball coach with what he's been able to do at Kentucky. Kentucky, not in any way a historically great or good program in the SEC, but what Nick Mingione has been able to do there, he's been there for a while now, is he's been able to take them to new heights that they haven't seen. I mean, they went to the College World Series. They went to Omaha in 2024. So I've always thought Nick Mingione is a really, really good coach. And Kentucky is good once again this season. They are a top 25 team, currently number 19 in the D1 baseball top 25 poll that is out right now. So we'll talk a little bit about Kentucky, a little bit about them. We'll start with kind of Nick Mingione's teams usually have an identity, and the identity this year is similar to what it is most years. They are a really good team. They're a veteran team, one of the most experienced, one of the most veteran teams in the SEC. They're not a power hitting team. They're not a power hitting team. Kentucky is actually tied for dead last currently in the SEC in home runs hit, with only 22 home runs hit as a team so far on the season for Kentucky. So they're not a really great slugging team or a power team when it comes to home runs, at least. But when you look at it, they are kind of similar offensively a little bit to the Oklahoma team that LSU played last week. Kind of similar to them in the fact that when you look at it, Kentucky is actually second in the SEC. They're second in the SEC, only behind Oklahoma, with 69 stolen bases on the season for Kentucky. So similar to Oklahoma, Kentucky's a fast team. They've stolen 69 bases this season, second in the SEC. So they are, when they get on the base paths, they like to run and they like to put a lot of pressure on the defense. So kind of the second week in a row, that's been the case for an opponent that LSU was playing. So they like to steal a lot of bases. When you look at it, let's see. They've grounded an interesting stat about UK offensively is they've grounded into the fewest double plays of any team in the SEC this season. They've only grounded offensively into 3 double plays so far this season through 24 games. So that's pretty good. And then they steal bases, they run, they are fast. They actually lead the Southeastern Conference in sacrifice bunts. They lead the SEC in sacrifice bunts. They are also tied for the conference lead in hit by pitches offensively. So when you look at the identity of this Kentucky offense, it's not a power offense, but they steal a lot of bases. They lay down a lot of bunts. They put a lot of pressure on you defensively. They're a really fast team, really kind of a gritty team, and a team that plays a tough brand of baseball that doesn't work for everybody, but it's worked over the years for Nick Mingione, taking them to Omaha and the CWS in 2024, and it's working for them pretty well so far this season. Again, a record of 20-4, 4-2 in your first 6 games of SEC play, a top 20 ranking in the current D1 baseball top 25. Like, this is a good Kentucky squad. When you look at them offensively, who are their best players? Well, their best player offensively is their shortstop, Tyler Bell. So Tyler Bell, their shortstop, is their best player. He was a preseason third-team All-American, preseason All-American, preseason Golden Spikes Award watch list player, Tyler Bell. But it's interesting for him. His season's been interesting because on opening weekend, he suffered a shoulder injury. So Tyler Bell has only played in 10 of the 24 games that Kentucky has played in so far this season. So he's missed 14 games on the season, but he's been back for like a week or two now. He started in their last 4 games, dating back to their first game they played last weekend in Oxford against Ole Miss. And again, he's one of the best shortstops in the country when he's healthy. MLB draft prospect, one of the best shortstops in the country, preseason All-American. He's had some injury issues with that shoulder injury that he's had to deal with, but he is back now, and he's played 10 games on the season. So he's only played 10 games when you look at his offensive numbers. So again, we'll go through some of his numbers. It's only 10 games, so it's not a huge sample size, but Bell on the season through 10 games that he's played is hitting .355, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, and limited action so far this season. So when he's healthy, which he's been healthy the past 1 to 2 weeks, he's the best player on the team, and Tyler Bell is definitely at shortstop somebody you definitely need to pay attention to. I've said it before, this team is not a power hitting team, but if I have to say the guy that has the best power numbers and is the biggest power threat on this offense besides Tyler Bell, that is one Ethan Hindle. So Ethan Hindle is the best power threat so far on the season for Kentucky. Ethan Hindle, he's only batting .271. So his bat, or not, I don't want to say only batting .271. His batting average is not high, but when you look at it, he leads Kentucky as an offense. He leads Kentucky, Hindle does, in homers with 6, in RBIs with 27, and in doubles with 10. And he also leads Kentucky in slugging percentage with a 647 slugging percentage so far on the season for Ethan Hendel. So he's been their best power threat on this team so far this season for UK. So Tyler Bell's their best player. He's been injured a little bit. He's back now. Ethan Hendel has been their best power threat this season, leading UK in homers, in RBIs, in doubles, and in slugging percentage. All right. A few more guys. I'll highlight Hudson Brown is leading UK in batting average. Hudson Brown is batting .390 on the season, 7 doubles, 22 RBIs on the season for Hudson Brown. Both Hudson Brown and Tyler Bell have an on-base percentage of over 500 for both Tyler Bell and Hudson Brown. Another good guy to pay attention to is the starting center fielder, and usually the leadoff batter for Kentucky, and that's Jace Tarnish. Jace Tarnish has had a pretty good season as the leadoff guy and the center fielder. Tarnish is batting .347, and he actually leads Kentucky with 15 stolen bases so far on the season. 15 stolen bases for center fielder and leadoff hitter Jace Tarnish. So he's put in a pretty good season, and when he gets on the bases, he likes to run. He's a pretty speedy guy at the leadoff position for Kentucky. A few more guys here. Luke Lawrence is batting .341 with 5 doubles and 17 RBIs for Luke Lawrence. Owen Jenkins is batting .282. And then, offensively, not a power hitting team. They like to bunt. They lead the SEC in sack bunts. They like to steal. They're second in the SEC in stolen bases. They have really good plate discipline. They have been hit by more pitches than any other team offensively in the SEC. So it's a tough brand of baseball, but it works for Kentucky, and they are a really good team. I would say the top 2 guys I would pay attention to in this lineup, among others, is Tyler Bell at shortstop, and Ethan Hendel has been the best power threat in this lineup for Kentucky. I will get into the comments in a little bit. Want to run through this starting pitching staff for Kentucky real quick. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning into the show. Starting pitching staff. So the starting rotation, it's going to be interesting tonight because Kentucky has a really good ace, really good starting pitcher on the mound tonight. Their ace, their Friday night guy, and right-hander Jackson Jelkin. And I think it's going to be a really good matchup. Could be a pitcher's duel on the mound tonight between Casey Evans for LSU and righty Jackson Jelkin for Kentucky. Jackson Jelkin has had a really good season. In 6 starts, he's 5-0, only has a 2.94 ERA, has thrown the most innings, pitched the most innings so far for this Kentucky pitching staff, 33 2/3 innings on the season for Jackson Jelkin. Really great, really good strikeout to walk ratio. He struck out 37 and he's only walked 8. Only walking 8 batters in over 33 innings pitched. That's pretty good. That's really good. And I was listening to Jay in his time with the media yesterday, previewing this Kentucky series, said that he thought Jackson Jelkin is one of the best pitchers in the SEC. And Jay Johnson said Jackson Jelkin is a future big leaguer in his eyes. I mean, Jackson Jelkin has been drafted before. He's a transfer from Houston, I believe. He is the best pitcher by far on this Kentucky pitching staff. And I think he's going to pose a real challenge for this LSU lineup that really struggled last weekend against Oklahoma. So Jelkin is really good. When you look at his pitch mix, he features a fastball, mid-90s, 94 to 96, has some sink to it. He's going to throw that fastball a lot. Most of the time, he's going to throw that fastball a lot. He also has a high 80s slider, a low 80s curveball, a changeup as well, but he's really going to feature heavily that mid-90s fastball with some sink to it. But Jelkin has been really good so far this season. Last weekend in a start against Ole Miss in Oxford, Jelkin went 7 innings. He went 7 innings in a start last weekend against Ole Miss in Oxford. Only gave up 1 run on 4 hits with 6 strikeouts. So he was really good in his start last weekend against Ole Miss. 7 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, 6 Ks. An interesting stat from his outing last weekend against Ole Miss. He went 7 innings, so he recorded 21 outs in the game last weekend against Ole Miss. 10 of those 21 outs came via the ground ball. So that's kind of an interesting stat. But I think Jackson Jelkin, best pitcher on this team. Jay Johnson spoke very highly of him yesterday, and he's a real dude. He's a real stud, and I think you see occasionally, throughout the season, you'll see Friday night pitching matchups that are really, really good. And I think this is going to be one of them with Kason Evans on the mound for LSU tonight and Jackson Jelkin, the righty, throwing for Kentucky, who's really, really good. The Saturday and Sunday starters for Kentucky are not as good as Jackson Jelkin. Flat out, they're not as good as Jackson Jelkin. They're not terrible, but they're not to the level of stuff and of ability and of numbers so far this season as Jelkin. The Saturday starter, the guy who's going to start tomorrow for Kentucky in game 2, is right-hander Nate Harris. So right-hander Nate Harris, we'll go through some of his numbers. He started 6 games, 3-1 record for Harris, 4.97 ERA in 25 1/3 innings. He struck out 28 and walked 12. So a few things about Harris. His ERA, I like compared Jelkin to Harris. Jelkin has a 2.94 ERA, 4.97 ERA for right-hander Nate Harris. As I've said before, Jelkin is the best pitcher on the staff by far for Kentucky. 12 walks in 25 1/3 innings. I mean, it's not terrible. It's a little bit high, especially when you compare it to Jelkin. Again, only 8 walks in 33 2/3 innings on the season for Jelkin is a really, really good number. But for Nate Harris, Harris features a fastball somewhere between 92 and 94 miles an hour. He's got a nice high 80 slider. That's one of his best pitches is that high 80 slider. He's also got a low 80s breaking ball through 2 SEC starts. So through 2 SEC starts for Harris. Harris has thrown 9 innings. He's given up 7 runs on 5 hits, including a homer. He struck out 7 and walked 5 in 9 innings and 2 starts so far in SEC conference play. 5 walks through the first 9 innings of SEC play for Nate Harris. Again, a little bit high. He's not bad, but my point is these Saturday and Sunday starters are not nearly as good as Jackson Jelkin is. I really think Jackson Jelkin is really good, and he's a stud, and I think he could pose a lot of challenges to this LSU offense tonight. The Sunday starter for the game 3 starter for Kentucky is a left-hander in Ben Cleaver. Ben Cleaver, the lefty, 6 starts on the season, 1-1 record, 2.45 ERA, 18 1/3 innings pitched. He struck out 24 and walked 12. So, again, in 18 1/3 innings, 12 walks is a little bit high for left-hander Ben Cleaver. And it's interesting when you look at Cleaver compared to Jelkin, like Jelkin, 33 innings pitched, 25 innings pitched for Harris, only 18 innings pitched for Ben Cleaver. He hasn't gone long. He's made 6 starts on the season, but he hasn't been extended. Cleaver hasn't recorded an out in the 5th inning yet this season. He has not recorded an out in the 5th inning yet this year. Fastball is in the high 80s, low 90s for Cleaver. Has a few different all-speed offerings, including a slider and a changeup. Pay attention. I was watching a little bit of this and some video and some film of Cleaver's start against Ole Miss last week. His breaking ball, he's got a really big bender for a curveball that's in the low 70s, high 60s at some point. Like I was watching some tape from his Ole Miss start, and he was throwing a curveball that was like 68, 69 miles per hour at points in that game. So pay attention to that. Doesn't throw as hard as Harris and Jelkin does for Ben Cleaver. Again, when he started, he's made 6 starts. All of these starters have made 6 starts. But Cleaver has not nearly gone as long as Jelkin and Harris have. And I think Harris only pitched 3 innings last weekend against Ole Miss. When you look at it, it's interesting because Cleaver was really good last year in 2025 for UK. He was their best pitcher last year, but he hasn't been as good this year. He hasn't been as good. He's made 6 starts, but again, not recorded an out in the 5th inning thus far in 6 starts this season. Ben Cleaver, when he has started, he has not gone deep, and that's who you can expect to start on Sunday. Again, the best arm on this team. I think it's going to be a real fun matchup tonight, pitching matchup tonight. Casey Evans versus righty Jackson Jelkin on the mound for Kentucky, who Jay Johnson talked a lot about, had a bunch of high praise for, and who I think is a really good pitcher, a really good pitcher tonight on the mound for Kentucky. Let's get into a few of these comments here. Let's see a few of these comments here. Randy, I'm so excited for you, my friend, going to the show, going to the game tonight. Thank you, Alex, for being in the chat. I really greatly appreciate it. Yeah, Paul Jarrett, what's up? What's up, buddy? What's up, my friend Paul? Thank you, Paul, for tuning into the show, my friend. I greatly appreciate it. Thank all of you fine folks for tuning in to this pregame / weekend preview. Hold on real quick. Gotta take a little bit of a refresher. So we broke down Kentucky, right? We broke down Kentucky. We broke down what we think they're good at. Let's talk about this LSU team. So let's see. AP, what's up? What's up, AP? What's up, friends? What's up, friends? Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Let's talk about the LSU squad. So you had, in my mind, your best offensive night in a month, Tuesday night against Louisiana Tech. Now, it's Louisiana Tech. It's not SEC level competition. We need to be honest about that. It was a brutal offensive weekend against Oklahoma. Just flat out a brutal offensive weekend against Oklahoma when you look at it. And it's just you know that's kind of what it is. You did have a really good offensive night, 15 runs on 14 hits against Louisiana Tech, but you're coming off really for over a month now, you've been inconsistent offensively. Few things that I think you need to pay attention to this weekend. Few things that I just think we've seen through the first 2 weekends of SEC play you got to be better at. One thing we've talked about is playing more complementary baseball. I've said it a lot over your past 3 weekends, that you've all lost series against Sacramento State, at Vandy, and home against OU last weekend. It's been, you can't put all of it together. You can't play complementary baseball. Like that's been the issue when you look at that's been the issue at times for this team, is not being able to play complementary baseball. I think you pitched well enough to win against Sacramento State, and your offense had a bad weekend there. I think same thing, brutal offensive weekend against OU. I think really your pitching has been good for the past 5 games. The past 5 games, I think your pitching has been good. I think they've kind of started to turn a corner, maybe in terms of pitching. But then you had, in between those 2 series, that Vanderbilt series where your pitching just had a brutal weekend against Vanderbilt, and your offense performed well, but your pitching was not good. That was an issue for you against. That was an issue for you against Vanderbilt in that series. So a few things. You got to play more complementary baseball. You got to put all of it together, especially in SEC play. You got to have it all clicking. This weekend, how do you play complementary baseball? How do you do that? Well, one thing about this weekend that is important is that Casey Evans and William Schmidt is starting Saturday. Sunday, to be announced, to be determined. You don't know who's starting Sunday, because remember, Cooper Moore is going to be injured. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. It's important that Evans extends his outing and Schmidt does the same. Help your bullpen out. That's what you need to do. That's what you have to do this weekend to put yourself in the best position. You need long extended outings from your 2 top guys, in Evans tonight, and Schmidt tomorrow. That's what you need. But your offense can help with that. One thing about last weekend and your 2 losses to OU, you could talk about the Friday loss. Well, you put a lot of pressure on your pitching staff in the middle innings when LJ Mercurius retired 10 LSU batters in a row. He retired the deciding order in the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Retired 10 LSU batters in a row in the middle of that game. Mercurius was dealing, and when stuff like that happens, it affects your pitchers, puts a lot of pressure on your pitchers because Cooper Moore is having to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and doesn't really get much of a break because your offense is getting, retired 10 straight, and it puts a lot of pressure on your opposing pitching staff and your bullpen and all of that. Same thing happened in the game a day later, game 3 on Saturday. You put a little bit of pressure on William Schmidt, who pitched well on Saturday, but you put pressure on him because while you did take the early lead in the bottom of the first, thanks to a 2-run bomb by Omar Cerna, you did take the lead. But then innings 2, 3, and 4, Cord Rager kind of shut you down for 3 straight innings in innings 2 through 4. And you really didn't put up much fight in those innings. So William Schmidt, again, going up, down, up, down, up, down. Like you're not helping. You're not taking any pressure off of the pitching staff, who has been really good over the past 5 games. But a part of complimentary baseball is just help your pitching staff. And especially against a guy like Jackson Jelkin, an ace and a real elite dude tonight. Like every time LSU goes up against an ace, because they're going to go up against a lot of really good aces in the SEC, the thing I pay attention to is pitch counts. Like that's the thing I pay attention to. Like tonight, I'm going to be looking, what is Jackson Jelkin's pitch count after the first inning? What is it after the second inning? What is it after the third inning? Because when you got the best pitcher on the mound for Kentucky tonight, you got to get that guy out of the game as soon as possible. And I'm not even saying that, I don't know how many runs you're going to be able to put up on the board against Jackson Jelkin. I think he can cause you some real challenges and some real problems. But I'll give you an example. Last Saturday, William Schmidt only gave up 1 run. He had a good outing on last Saturday in game 3 against OU. But in the third inning, OU didn't put up runs on him in the third inning, but they made him work, and he threw over 30 pitches in the third inning. And then he came back out in the fourth, didn't give up a run, but dealt with a lot of traffic on base, and he threw over 20 pitches. So that way his pitch count was near 80 or over 80 after 4 innings. So William Schmidt couldn't get out of the fifth. So OU didn't put up a lot of runs against William Schmidt, but they made him work. They drove up his pitch count, and they got him out of the game. That's what they were able to do. And that's kind of what you need to do against Jackson Jelkin tonight. Even when you don't score, and you do want, of course, the goal was always to score, but be patient, drive up his pitch count, work his pitch count. Because even though William Schmidt pitched really well against OU, he didn't get out of the fifth inning because OU did a good job in the third, making him throw over 30 pitches in the third and throw over 20 pitches in the fourth. So you got Schmidt out of the game in the fifth inning. That's kind of the formula for tonight, I think, against Jackson Jelkin. And if you do that, it helps Casey Evans because Casey Evans doesn't have to go, up, down, up, down, up, down because your offense is being shut down by the opposing pitcher. You got to make them work. You got to make these aces in the Southeastern Conference work. You want to put up runs, but even if you don't put up runs, get them out of the game early. Drive up that pitch count. That's what I'm going to be paying attention to tonight early in this game with this LSU offense up against Jackson Jelkin. I think it's going to be a really good pitching matchup tonight. Again, it's important that Schmidt and Evans both go long and extend their outings to help your bullpen because you're likely going to have a bullpen game on Sunday. I said last night that I think you should start Zach Cowan on Sunday. I don't know exactly if you're going to do that, but I think he's the most experienced starter in this bullpen, so he would be the guy that I would move up into the Sunday starter role while Cooper Moore is out. But that's my opinion and kind of what you want to do in that situation. But yeah, you can't have situations where LJ Mercurius last week retires 10 in a row and Cord Rager shuts you down in innings 2 through 4 for 3 straight innings because that puts a lot of pressure on your opposing pitching staff to perform. Let me get to these comments What's up, Paulie J? AP? The General is back. The General is back. We talked about that last night. The General is back. Few more things, few more numbers. Again, I thought you had your best offensive night in a month against Louisiana Tech. Now that talent, that's not near the talent you see in the SEC. But you had your best night in a month against them. But looking at the numbers through 6 games in SEC play, listening to Kendall Rogers had some of these numbers. I was listening to a show he did this morning. He threw out some of these numbers, and they stood out to me because I knew they had been struggling, but I didn't know how what the exact numbers were through 6 games, through 2 weeks of SEC play. Milam is batting 240. Caraway is batting 182. Dardar is batting 167. York is batting 125. Curiel is batting 260. That's not awful. 260 is not awful in SEC play. And of course, I love Derek Curiel and I love all these guys. But you do need some of your, I would say, we can be honest about this. I would say your transfer infielders that you brought in have not always, they haven't been the best. Like, they haven't been the best so far this season. They have struggled at times between York, Caraway, Dardar. Now, you've seen good things out of them, but they haven't been consistent. Some of these transfers, and really, we've talked about it. I think, obviously, Jake Brown has been your best hitter this season. Jake Brown's been phenomenal this season. I also have been really impressed with the play of Omar Cerna lately. The freshman has been doing some really good things offensively. I think John Pearson has solidified his role in the lineup. And at that third base position, those really have been your top 3 guys to me over the first 6 weeks, six games of SEC play, through the first 6 games of SEC play. So you need some of these guys to step up. We can be a little bit honest about that when we talk about that. Which, again, Zach York, like, I love the game on Tuesday, had a tough weekend against Oklahoma, bouncing back and hits 2 bombs against Louisiana Tech on Tuesday night. Like, Zach York going to be back at first base tonight, and you feel good about it, and because of Louisiana Tech and what he did there. But these transfers and some of these guys have struggled a little bit acclimating to SEC play through the first 6 games. So you need some of those guys to step up. I did like the lineup that you threw out on Tuesday. So the lineup on Tuesday, you had Stanfield leading off. Then you had Brown 2, Cerna 3, Curiel 4, Pearson 5. I think you had Eddie Yaman at DH. I could see Aaron Beatty at DH or something like that, or Aaron Beatty and Cerna flipping between catcher and DH. You had Milam 7, and then York and Caraway to round out the order. I kind of like that lineup. I like that lineup personally. I wouldn't blame you for throwing back out there. I will say one thing I've talked about this week that I've been concerned about is Jake Brown, opposing teams pitching around him, because he's been the best player on this team. And why would you pitch to Jake Brown? Like, I threw out the stat last weekend that OU in that series walked him 6 times, and the batters behind him after those 6 walks went 0 for 5 with a walk. So I like the idea of putting your best hitter. Who's been your best hitter besides Jake Brown over the past number of weeks? That's Omar Cerna. That's been Omar Cerna. So I like the idea for the time being of putting Cerna at 3 right behind Brown to kind of protect him in the lineup. Because, again, Cerna has been your best hitter besides Brown over the past few weeks since the start of conference play. That's kind of my opinion. That's kind of my take on it. I like the lineup that you ran out with on Tuesday. We talked about making the winning plays. We talked about making the big plays, making the winning plays, and you didn't do a great job of that. Oklahoma and Vandy in late game situations made more winning plays than you. You can point out a couple of them from last weekend. You can point out Ruckert's error on that tailor-made double play ground ball. Rucker gets that, makes that play. You get out of the inning with the lead. You can talk about Derek Curiel flying out Friday with the bases loaded in the 7th, and you're down 1. to end the inning, and you don't get the tying run across. You can talk about all the runners you left stranded on base. You can talk about that. Like Oklahoma late in the games on Friday and Saturday made the winning plays that you haven't been able to make through 2 weekends. Vanderbilt, the opening game of SEC play on that, bottom of the ninth. Vandy's going into the bottom of the ninth down 2. They put up 3 runs. They hit a 2-run bomb to walk the game off. That's a winning play. That's a clutch play. This team has the talent. I sincerely believe this team has the talent. You got to make winning clutch plays in the SEC because you're going to play close games. Like the games against Kentucky this weekend are going to be close. They're a top 25 team, and you're going to play close games every weekend in the SEC. I mean, 3 of LSU's 4 losses in conference play so far have come by 2 runs or less. Like that should tell you everything you need to know. So late in the games with runners on base, that's also an issue you've had at times, and especially in the OU series. 2-out hitting. 2-out hitting was an issue against Oklahoma. Now, I thought you did a much, much better job of 2-out hitting against Louisiana Tech. You did a much better job of hitting with 2 outs on Tuesday night. But you struggle with that at times over the past month. You definitely struggled mightily with that in those clutch situations, in those 2-out situations against OU. You got to be better there. And again, another thing, it's similar to Oklahoma. The 2 offensive styles with Kentucky, they're not a power hitting team. They're tied for dead last in the SEC in home runs hit, but they steal a lot of bases. They've laid down the most sacrifice bunts of any team in the SEC. Like that's the brand of baseball that they play. They're a pretty fast and speedy team. So again, for the second week in a row, a lot of pressure is going to be put on your defense, which has struggled plenty at times this season. We've talked about it. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been great always, but you gotta step up defensively this weekend. Behind the plate, in the infield. The outfield's been fine, obviously. The outfield's been fine. The outfield's been really good. I'm sorry, that was some noise in my house, but it's off now. The outfield's been fine, but you have had troubles on the infield and at the catcher position. And then against a team like Oklahoma with their offensive philosophy, and especially against a team like Kentucky that likes to run, you gotta play well defensively this weekend to win the series. So to kind of recap all of this, and you can put your comments in the comments section, what you think about this weekend, maybe give a prediction, what you're thinking. Few thoughts from this weekend. I think, again, it's going to be a really good pitching matchup tonight between Jackson Jelkin and Kason Evans. The key for that is to run up Jackson Jelkin's pitch count, get him out of the game quick. He's the best pitcher on that team, and kind of similar to what OU did offensively last Saturday against William Schmidt. I think you kind of want to do the same thing against Jackson Jelkin tonight and run up that pitch count early. I would be paying attention to that early in the game. How many pitches has he thrown after the first, after the second, after the third? Because you want to get him out because he's the best pitcher by far on this UK pitching staff. Got to play well defensively, offensive philosophy with the team that steals a lot of bases and lays down a lot of sack bunts and all of that. You got to do well with that. And I think, again, making the clutch plays late in the game, because like every weekend, you're playing a top 25 team and you're playing a team that is really good and plays really good baseball. And you got to do a good job of, defensively and late in games. There's going to be situations this weekend where you got to make plays in the 7th, 8th, and 9th to win games. And that's been a struggle for you at times. And you haven't. Oklahoma and Vandy did more of that than you in the first 2 SEC series you played, and that's what led to you losing. You want to see Kason Evans and William Schmidt extend, help your bullpen, so that on Sunday, because you don't know about Sunday, I would throw Cowan on Sunday because he's the most starting experience of anybody in this bullpen right now. That's kind of what I would do. but help your bullpen out by extending and Kaysen coming off the best outing of his career at LSU last weekend against OU. It rivals the Little Rock one he made in the regional final last year. That compared to the OU one that he had last week are neck and neck. But definitely like the best pitching performance of the season for anybody on this pitching staff last week put out by Kaysen Evans against OU. So excited to see how he goes tonight. Excited to see him facing off against Jackson Jelkin on the other side. And I'll say this. I'm going to pick LSU to win this series. I'm going to say the Tigers win 2 out of 3. You got a lot of energy in the program right now, in the LSU athletics right now. Think about the week you've had. Lane Kiffin on the practice field for the first time, spring practice, all of that starting up, and then the Will Wade stuff. How exciting has this past week been as a fan of LSU athletics? Let's cap it off with a good weekend. Let's play on the field, and let's cap it off with a good weekend to make it one of the best weeks we can remember in a long time. Let's win the series against Kentucky, and women's basketball punch a ticket to the Final Four on top of that. Been a great week for LSU athletics. Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, and company starting spring practice. Finish it out this weekend and keep that momentum rolling. And I'm going to take the Tigers to win this series 2 out of 3. I think it's going to be a very close, very competitive series. I think that, I think I was talking to David Bouillot and, AP and Paul earlier today about this, and I think it's hard to say. I understand it's hard to say it's a must-win series and only the third weekend of SEC play, but I do think it's an extremely, extremely important series because after this weekend, 3 of your next 4 SEC series are all on the road. After this weekend, you play at Tennessee, at Ole Miss, home against Texas A&M, and then at Mississippi State in Starkville. You need to take advantage of the time you have in the box this weekend because after this weekend, you're going to play a lot on the road in the next 4 weekends. So I think this is an extremely important series. I do believe the talent going to be interesting this weekend. Kentucky's a good team. I have a heck of a lot of respect for Nick Mingione and what he's been able to do with that program. And I'm pumped for tonight. I'm pumped for this series. Let's get it rolling. Excited for this series, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the show. Let me know in the comments below. We'll get back to them a little bit. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this series. Thank you, Randy, for being in the chat. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, AP. Thank all of you. Thank you, Alex, for being in the chat as well. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. We're doing a post game tonight, like we do every Friday night, should be, with AP and timeouts and tangents, and planning to do a Friday night post game that we've been doing for a couple weeks we've been doing that. So tune into that tonight. Usually pretty late on a Friday night, but we have a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun the past few Fridays that we've done it, and so be tuning into that. If you want to stay up late with us on a Friday night, we'll be doing that after the game. And thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go Tigers. Let's have a great weekend. Let the Tigers notch a SEC series win. Let's win an SEC series, folks. Have a great win. Go Tigers. Remember, as always, God bless. Go Tigers. Have a great one. Peace out.